Hello and welcome to Talk Georgia, which is my English language channel covering Georgian and regional politics. Talk Georgia is brought to you by the Royal Media Group, a trusted source of high-quality news and analysis, and also GSAC, a think tank providing comprehensive political analysis of Georgia and wider Black Sea region, also academic and practical training for postgraduate students and mid-career professionals. To dive into the key developments of Georgia's politics, today we are joined by Dr. Nino Japaridze. Nino is Director of Global Analytics. She used to be the Vice President of Edison Research, a company that conducted public opinion polls and exit polls since 2012 in this country, almost every elections. She's an Oxford graduate. She holds PhD in political science, and she studied political science all the way from Wheaton College
1991
to George Washington University. She's the leading authority of quantitative and qualitative public research, and she's got over 30 years of experience in doing it across the world, not only in the United States or in Georgia, in Asia, in Africa, in South America.
Central and South America is the only region where I have not done a single project. But the rest of the world, yes. And it's such a pleasure to be with you.
Venezuela.
But I was not part of that project. Edison Research did, but I didn't play any role in it. So.
But anyways, also she used to be the president of American Friends of Georgia and president of Georgian Association, which is one of the oldest, Georgian Association.
The oldest Georgian
USA.
American diaspora, founded in 1932, exactly, and thriving now under amazing leadership of Salamet Zereteli-Stevens.
Perfect. And Dr. Japaridze, very welcome to my podcast. Please feel free to add my limited introduction, anything you think that our audience might need to know before we get down to business, which is to Talk Georgia.
It was not limited. It was quite substantial, and thank you for for inviting me, for caring about what I might share with you, because I really have a lot of thoughts. And I will only add one thing, that I grew up in Tbilisi. I went to Tbilisi School number 1, as well as Mechute Korpusiv, building number 5 of our most amazing university, Ivana Javecheshulis University. I completed 2 years here before going to Wheaton College. I was studying Western European languages and literature, but my passion was, and I knew that since 1988, since I participated in the very first Soviet-American high school exchange, I knew that I wanted to study global affairs, international relations, and this is what I have tried to do, to become an expert on IR matters, political science, and I always wanted to contribute to building bridges, bringing Georgia closer to Euroatlantic world, and through my minor contributions as a scholar of public opinion, I felt that I've been true to that vision and dream of mine of being a Georgian who was blessed with an opportunity of pursuing highest quality education, and being a Georgian American who never lost touch with her Georgian identity and acquired American identity. So as a human being, I really feel deep commitment to my roots that I have through birth, and roots that I have developed through life's fortune, and my mission continues to be bringing our societies closer together. And I hope we can talk about where Georgia is today, if Georgia is closer to democracy and Euro-Atlanticism, if we're speedily walking in that direction, or are we truly backsliding? And is this irreversible backsliding or not?
Interesting. Let's start from that and let's dive into the current affairs of Georgia.
Okay.
So as we speak, people are getting arrested on Rustaveli Avenue for blocking it. The teachers, engineers, bankers, poets, yesterday,
Students,
basically, journalists.
doctors.
I mean, all walks of life, the best part of the Georgian society. If you want to find them, go to prison. I mean, this is Georgia's present reality. Apart from that, you said that where Georgia is going, and I think the prime example where it is going is the report that was issued by the European Commission yesterday, which is, I think, historic in its, negative sense, because it never happened in the history of enlargement of the European Union when a candidate country basically backslided on every single EU recommendation.
There were 9 recommendations.
And what the report says, that the Georgia stays candidate country just on the paper, in the name only. And it is trailing behind Turkey and trailing behind Kosovo, which is unthinkable for a country which was a leading country in the region in terms of reforms, in terms of democracy in the region, again, between the associated trio. Now it is trailing behind.
You mean Ukraine and
Moldova, absolutely.
Yes, exactly. And I will not forget how this trio indeed existed, and at the Black Sea Resort, this amazing conference with leaders of 3 countries. And at the time, President Zurabishvili was there, and Maya Sandu was there. And there was so much hope that together, these 3 leaders, with coordinated effort, would expedite association progress.
Again, continuing what is happening in Georgia is that, again, the 3 major political groups in the opposition are on the verge of getting banned from the ruling party. Georgia already exceeded Russia in number of
political prisoners
per capita. I don't know, Georgia's strategic partnership with the United States is suspended.
Annulled, basically. Right now, suspended. Right.
Again, not only this report, but I think it was yesterday, the Enlargement Commissioner, Marta Kos, said that Georgia has never been so far away from the European Union since 2023 when it got the candidate status. I mean, everything that put in together, taking into account and also you having this luxury of being a little bit distant from Georgia and observing it from the United States, and
that's
yet
real
present.
Luxury, to be distant yet present.
It is. In your opinion, where Georgia as a state stands now?
You know how we Georgians love to say how exceptional we are? We really have earned this exceptionalism in terms of backsliding from emerging democracy, which was electoral democracy. It was not a consolidated democracy, even though we've been trying to consolidate democracy. We were far away from consolidated democracy, right? Because of very many reasons, factors. This podcast is not about political science and analyzing Georgia's democracy. I will just say that we've never been consolidated democracy. We were increasingly a really vibrant electoral democracy, extremely vibrant developing democracy in terms of the quality of civil society, diversity of civil society, with its weaknesses, this large capital city and urban locale focused civil society structure. I mean, we were talking about that this is a problem, this has to be changed. I would say that even in 2022, 2023, 2024, we were not as inclusive. So going back to the key point, civil society has been Georgia's pride. Political parties. When I started working on my dissertation in 2006 at Oxford, and 2007, I looked at the number of political parties that existed. There were over 200 registered political parties. If you look at the list of registered political parties today, I have not looked, because I'm not working on my dissertation, but my impression is that there are probably more registered political
probably
parties.
More than 300.
You mentioned 300 some, but let's really look at it after the program. And but the point is, even though, I mean, it's great, let there be political parties, but in terms of culture of political parties, from the point of view of what democracies need, right? Are they really representing Georgia's voters? Are they really open to taking input from Georgia's voters, right? How are they campaigning? As a country, we are Georgia, where we still do not have political parties that shape their daily existence the way political parties should operate. Political parties are disconnecting from Georgia's public opinion. They are not, their resource, majority of them are resource poor. And many of them don't yet appreciate the importance of campaigning and speaking with their voters, existing voters or potential voters, and this produces the kind of the result that we have seen over the years of very poor representation of diverse Georgian public opinion. We have campaigns where promises are given, and there's no delivery. We have elections where Georgia's ethnic minority populated regions are being remembered only a couple of weeks or a month before a specific election date, and their rights are being violated because they're told how to vote. They're given potatoes or money or onions. And it's not only Georgia's ethnic minorities, but ethnically Georgian people as well are being subject to this type of manipulation. Georgia has not yet had an election where public sector workers feel free to vote for whoever they want to vote for. There has not been an election where Georgia's population, unfortunately, growing population of economically disadvantaged families, we have not had an election where these people don't fear losing public support, financial support, benefits, because of what they have seen, right? So Georgia has had elections, many elections, but we have not had elections where Georgian public is truly free to vote as they really want to vote. And another thing that Georgians have not had, even though we've had many elections and wonderful observers, international and domestic, minus last local elections, which again there was an intentional measure by Georgian Dream not to invite international observers on time, because this is a serious matter. You need time to prepare your missions.
Absolutely.
Right? It was intentional.
Absolutely.
So last elections, even that variable was absent. But all elections that we have had in Georgia has lacked truly competitive landscape, even in the space of information reception. We don't have Georgian voters with an ability to watch Imedi TV, most watched program, where political evening news or talk shows include many voices. You have controlled newsroom narratives serving one and only one interest, and unfortunately lately you would say that their content is completely aligned with narratives of Moscow television stations. And we all know that in Russia they're limiting the space for freedom of news reporting as it should be reported has been declining ever since NTV's ownership change. So we're talking about you remember, so 2000. So Georgia, and if you look at the public channel, and I know that Georgian public channel management criticized EU's findings that public broadcaster is not independent, how could you objectively debate this point when you have you report on what happens on the central street of Tbilisi, Rustaveli Avenue, only one lens. Like right now in the studio, you have 2 or 3 cameras. You could turn one or the other and see your face or my face. They choose what they see. And that is wrong, because you need to show, and it applies to all TV channels. I would say exceptionalism here is Formula, and not because Formula was my client, but because I saw Formula's team always wanted to have as many voices as possible. Their studios were open for Georgian Dream parties, leadership, and they don't come. So, and this is crucial. Georgia's voters have not had informed decisions, and those pamphlets that are distributed, Georgian voters unfortunately disregard those information pamphlets because they don't have trust. Georgian public opinion that we have done in Georgia for years, we have seen trust in army, trust in patriarch's office, church is very, very high. Trust in in parliament low. Trust in political parties even lower. Trust in CEC low. Trust in Georgia's media higher at certain points, lower at others, and Georgia's democracy will not be robust until we have Georgian society, when asked, do you trust in this institution or that institution, having majority of the society saying that they trust the parliament, trust Central Electoral Commission, trust Georgia's media, trust Georgian political parties, trust Georgia's trust in president evolves. And if we use Georgian public's views about Georgia's democratic institutions and just take that as a measure of where Georgia is today, I would say, unfortunately, Georgia is not even an electoral democracy. Where is Georgia today? We're under real threat of increased occupation by not malign I don't think is strong enough, by antagonistic, anti-Georgian forces. And Russia is indeed Georgia's national security threat. Russia today, under President Putin, is no friend. Yes, our geography requires diplomacy, but diplomacy cannot be equated with opening up borders, physical borders, and information borders, and cybersecurity space to enemy nations, subjugation, and psychological operations, because Georgian citizens right now are subject to psychological operation by Russian information agencies, by physical occupation. 20% of Georgia's territory is occupied. Ochamchire being developed. We know this is not going to serve Georgia's national security interest. Under Georgian Dream's government, Anaglia port development was paused, and the rights for its development, the partner that they chose is not European, it's not Danish, it's not American, it is Chinese. Georgia's very crucial airport outside of Tbilisi, Vaziani I'm talking about, where NATO's vital partnership training was happening every year. Do you know about what I'm talking about? There's
and now they want to make civil airport out of that, which
development
effectively
of it
means
again,
abolishing the training center.
Civil the research that I have seen, and I have to say, Tina Hidasheli's think tank did a report about this, and I read it, and it said that Avaziani airport development was also given to Chinese. And another thing that I read in that report is that Georgia's Defense Department these buildings, there are cameras installed, security cameras
that
are Chinese. So how could we do that? Really, we deserve to be the star in the flag of European. We deserve to be all of those bright stars, and we should be one of them. There are historical reasons, there are civilization reasons. Georgia deserves to be a member of NATO.
It is indeed very interesting, and I more than agree with you that, okay, the Georgia deserves to be a star on this European flag, part of NATO, but to do so, I think that how we get there, what we need to do, we need to push this regime out of power to get Georgia back on the NATO track or European Union track. And I think to do so, we need to analyze the mistakes that we made at least a year ago, because the 2024 elections that your organization, Edison Research, that time when you were the vice president of that, basically
at the time I was special advisor.
Oh, absolutely. Conducted public opinion polls in the run-up of the elections and then exit polls. And I think we need to reflect on the results of the elections, what went right, what went wrong, why the opposition was not able to, because according to the exit polls of the Edison Research, commanded majority, but they were not possible to sustain this majority and to get the results, because the difference between the result of the elections, which was the official results of the elections from Central Election Commission, and Edison's exit polls, the difference was whopping 13%, which has never happened in Georgia. Since 2012, Edison Research has been conducting these polls. It was always very close. And
averaged 2% point difference.
This discrepancy of 13%, what does it show? Does it show the manipulation of the data? Has it ever happened elsewhere in the world that you conducted research?
Same year.
And most importantly, my question to you is this could have been something that the opposition could have been there anything that the opposition could do to avoid this development that happened later when the Ivanishvili's regime basically stole the elections, usurped power, and everything that we see now is the result of that. Because when you stole elections, when you usurped power against the will of the majority of the Georgian people, then the only way to sustain it is brute force. And this is what we see today.
We're seeing now, exactly.
And coming back what I was saying, going back to bring Georgia back to the NATO and European Union route, what we have to do, we have to push this regime out of power. And how can we do that unless we analyze the mistakes that we made a year ago in these pivotal elections? So my question to you is that what does the Edison Research data show? Because data never lie.
If done properly, analyzed properly, if collected properly.
And once again, if there was anything that could the opposition do to avoid all this mess that we are in now?
Exactly. Of course, there is a way forward and there is hope. But to get there, it is important to recognize mistakes. It is important to stop looking in the mirror that shows you as most beautiful. You gotta see who you really are. But it is really important to start looking in the mirror. And I have not seen serious efforts. I'll be so happy if I'm wrong, but I have not yet witnessed a serious reflection and serious correction of what kind of mirror we're looking at. They were really looking at the mirrors that showed them to be the smartest, the right ones for that moment, with right vision. And as a result, they did not listen to the people. Remember I said democracy cannot be without taking into account public opinion. And what we saw is they saw the kind of public opinion. They were looking at the data that they had available, just like in the mirror analogy. They were looking at the data with those filters. There's a very beautiful English word, biased. They had preconceived biases, frames that prevented them from seeing what the data was actually telling them. If you rid yourself, if you realize that you're really, like you're basically taking yourself to doomsday, and if you realize that that's what's happening to you, and you start vaccinating yourself from this illness, and you start correcting the course, which they didn't do. They did slightly, like by creating several coalitions and by telling themselves and the nation that, this is actually being competitive democracy. This is actually listening to voters. This is actually giving them a choice between left, right, center. We should not have this one party dominated political landscape, because that's what brought us to 2012. We're not repeating those mistakes. We will not be violating human rights in Georgia anymore. And this is the formula for success, right? And I don't want to repeat myself, but I've spoken so many times about what Georgian public, not Georgian Dream supporters, but undecideds that were telling us that they were going to go and vote, as well as pro-position supporters that were telling us that they were going to go and vote. The majority was calling for pro-Western opposition to unite, and unfortunately that didn't happen. I will tell you, I met with every pro-Western opposition party leader, minus Elisashvili, and minus the other Girchi. And after meeting with them, because I saw that they were not seeing data without those filters, and I invested my personal time, 6 weeks of my life in Georgia, trying to have these conversations, and I had them with some political leaders, more than one conversation, and they, just because I really wanted to make sure that there was no broken telephone and there was no misrepresentation of what I was saying, I created a Signal group, the Signal, like a platform like WhatsApp. I didn't ask their permission. I just created it, and when I created it, I told them why I created it. So all of them who received this message knew what was the purpose of that. It was just to make sure that they each knew that I had had these conversations, and the purpose of these conversations was to encourage them to unite forces before 2024 October elections. And I will not name who left that Signal group, but there was one political party who left the Signal group, and when I asked why they did this, the explanation was because they were appalled that I would put them together in the same chat where there was UNM. And so what kind of unity can you talk about? And President Zurabishvili's charter, I loved what was written there. With the only thing that I disagreed with was the emphasis, and that was in her interviews, where she was saying that there is no time to really talk about programs. There is only time to talk about the road is Russia or the road is Europe. I think that was a tactical mistake, because when you talk to Georgia's population and what concerns them, Europe and Russia was not problem number one. Problem number one was jobs, unemployment, economic devastation. So we have not yet had elected leaders that have thought seriously about how to create jobs, how to protect human rights, workers' rights. We have not yet had Georgian leaders who truly care about those minors and how they live and what opportunities their families and their children have. We are the society which reminds me of United States in early 19th and 20th century, which created the wealth. But those wealthy families, whether it is Ford's or whether it's Carnegie's and others, we're giving something back to their societies. And in Georgia, I see business elites who focus on themselves with minor giving. Corporate social responsibility is the term that they utilize and speak about, and some of them do good things, but they can do so much more. And Georgia today will not come closer to Georgia that Georgia's society wants unless Georgia's business starts playing their important role, focused on corporate social responsibility, that really cares for societies where their businesses are opened. And they must fund political parties. They should stop funding only the incumbent government. We need to speak with voters. Even if you're abolished, you need to have these one-on-one meetings. You need to start listening to the voters. Those parties that will not be abolished, or new parties when formed, truly
if formed.
Yeah. I hope some of them will
I
somehow manage
genuinely
to
hope
be
that,
formed and will be formed to help Georgia regain its seat where Georgia belongs, that they will campaign, not 1 or 3 months before, but years
all
before. And there are so many wonderful ways to do this. I would like for them to not only look at how Bush's were campaigning or McCain's were. I respected Senator McCain so much, or how John McCain was campaigning, right? Everybody, you've seen buses with campaign signs. That is great, and Georgia has never had it. We need it. We need marshrutkas. We need to take vision to these villages, even remote villages. Do not repeat the mistake that Georgia's voters are only in Tbilisi and large cities. Do not repeat that mistake. Georgian media needs support. We will lose formula, TV news, if somebody does not, or somebodies don't step in. And it is important to preserve and protect formula. We cannot see what happened to Mtavari, because if we see what happened to Mtavari, happened to formula, and if Eve Pirveli also disappears. I mean, I know that the more the merrier, but if you exist as a media, you need to be ethical, and you need to be professional. You need to give many voices space, and it is important for independent media like Batumelebi. What happened to Mzia Maglobeli is tragedy. 2 years in prison is it's devastating. She didn't deserve that. Thank God she was given the award. She was given Sakharov's award. She deserved it. Batumelebi is an amazing example of bravery, and every Georgian media outlet should emulate their bravery. And we as citizens here need to be collecting money, not only for those who's horrible, who are arrested and they're crazy fines, like 5,000 lari or 10,000 lari. And I know it's amazing that we collect and we support, because people don't have this money. A similar campaign needs to be made to support and sustain formula. Another thing that we need in order for us to stay the right course, Megobari Act is, as you know, everybody talks about Megobari Act on television, right? There are discussions about it and what happened, why the hotline didn't pass, and what is it, and is it really Megobari? Like, if you watch any non-Georgia Dream-controlled media, you hear that this is truly a Megobari Act. The name represents what the spirit of this legislative act is. But if you listen to Imedi or Rustavi or Posteve, you are bombarded with messaging that Megobari Act is the enemy act. The truth is, it is indeed Megobari Act. The truth is, any act says, that defines the relationship between the United States and another society. It talks about all scenarios, and there could be either positive scenario where you're really walking together towards a shared goal, and the shared goal in this case is democracy, shared interests meaning that we are not going to be doing things that strengthen Putin's Russia's, Ayatollah's Iran's, and China's interests, right? It's very important. Iya Parulava is the only actor in Georgia who is not paid by anyone to do what she's doing. She really believes that in U.S.-Georgian bilateral relations, she really doesn't want to see Georgia abandoned by the United States. And what she does is vitally important, and her Megobari Act petition initiative has been ignored by Georgian pro-democracy political parties, pro-democracy civil society. Because, how do I know this? Because her petition doesn't even have 5,000 signatures.
Subscribers, yeah.
So please sign this petition.
Coming back to what you said, exactly the Megobari Act and Georgia-U.S. relations. I know that you've invested a lot in that, people-to-people, at government levels, at people-to-people levels. You and your late husband.
Thank you for remembering him.
You was the director of American Friends of Georgia, the Georgian Association in the USA. My question to you is that, taking into account what is happening in Georgia now, that the Georgia-U.S. Strategic Charter is suspended. Georgia is no longer on the EU enlargement agenda. Georgia is being isolated. Well, at least, Georgian Dream as a ruling party is isolated. It is closely aligned with Russia and China.
Yeah.
Is there any hope that Georgian-American relations can survive this crisis? Because again, what we see, Georgian Dream is trying to get some kind of cooperation with the Trump administration. So far they failed, and it delivers a tremendous blow to the relations that has been built over 30 years, this bipartisan support for Georgia in Senate, in House of Representatives.
Exactly.
So is it possible that the Georgia stays on the pro-Western path if the Ivanishvili's regime consolidates autocracy finally? Or what should be done to at least sustain relationship in a level that when the Ivanishvili's regime is pushed out of power, then we quickly go back to on the track and quickly go back to normal?
So, wonderful question. And yes, there is, of course, hope, and it's not just hope; it's unequivocal truth. Unequivocal truth that nothing can break ties between U.S. and Georgia, no matter what Georgian Dream does. Right? If, let's say, the worst case scenario comes and Georgian Dream stops pretending that they are Democrats and stops pretending that they are actually serving Georgia's national security interests. They stop pretending that they're protecting peace, that they're protecting territory, that they have the solutions on how to reopen dialogue with Abkhaz and Ossetian people, and that they're being smart diplomats, and that's why they are keeping up relationships with China and Iran and Russia, right? Well, like we hear, like they have rational justifications, and they talk about, look at the geography. There's no other way. They even use the example of President Aliyev, right? And look, I'm pretty sure I've not been in those rooms, but I imagine that they talk about how, look, President Aliyev managed to preserve good relationships with Israel and Turkey and Russia and right
and the United States and even European Union.
Even European Union, and exactly. And he was invited to the White House. President Pashinyan, amazing, right? How he turned Armenia's course, right? And Armenia, I'm so happy for the people of Armenia. And I have so many Armenian friends in Armenia, in the United States, who, are right now celebrating. And I know they have. They have the intellect, they have the resources, financial as well, to put their knowledge to use to help Armenia leap forward towards EU membership. And we need the support of the Armenian diaspora, and Ukrainian diaspora, and Moldovan diaspora to protect U.S. focus on Georgia. This is what we can do, and we need help of Georgians here and political parties as well. And another thing, so as I said, it's unequivocal truth. Nothing can break our bond, no matter what Georgian Dream does. But we can be better prepared for a better tomorrow. And that preparation includes the collaboration I was just talking about. This also includes united front of Georgia's political pro-Western players, elite. They need to start coming to Washington, going to European capitals together, but Washington particularly, because NATO will not happen. Georgia's membership in NATO will not happen unless the United States leads. This is unequivocal truth as well, speaking from lessons learned, and I was there witnessing enlargement 1 and second enlargement. Without United States leadership and the diplomacy the United States invested with EU capitals, you wouldn't have seen Baltic states or Bulgaria or Romania or part of EU. We need this spirit, and what made this possible for these amazing countries is collaboration of political pro-Western elites, civil society, their own organic diasporas, collaboration with other diasporas, and Central and East European coalition that I absolutely admire, and Georgian Association is part of it. We need, and they are already doing all they can, and they will not rest until Georgia is again on that path, along with Georgian Association. We will not rest. And another thing that I would say, something that was done, and it was important because, you cannot change political climate, right? Lobbying and advocacy, they're two different things. Advocacy is important and it must be enhanced, but lobbying too, like pro-Western opposition parties, just like the way they like to play alone here or have visits alone, they also have funded lobbying entities alone. They cannot afford this luxury, and it is not helping strengthen U.S.-Georgian ties. So they need to unite, and in this year, what we have seen is the rise of pro-democracy movements, groups that were not visible, didn't even exist. It happened organically. These movements are that we see, their actions, and they're very active, particularly on social media platforms. And sometimes you see their power in the streets, but every day there's nonstop protest, right? Yeah, you don't see them every day there, right? You don't see them in thousands, right? Sometimes it's just 50 people, sometimes 200. It's a good day if you have 2,000. There are milestone moments. I'm pretty sure that at the end of November 28th, I think it is, you will see very robust representation of these voices. And this is wonderful. It's actually an unintended consequence of these oppressive, undemocratic steps crowned and enabled by Georgian Dream. Unintended consequence is they've given birth to more voices. And these voices are so educated that if today they haven't yet found the way of how to move forward, and these fears that they're subject to, punishment they're subject to, could for a little bit slow kind of realignment, but in reality, do you know what they're going to get? Georgia Dream is helping Georgia become a consolidated democracy, because their oppression is giving birth to the kinds of actors and players that are needed to consolidate democracy. It's an unintended consequence, and they're going to regret it. And also, history. How did solidarity exist in Poland, right? How did Václav Havel and his like-minded champions of Czechoslovak democracy and freedom movement exist, right? How did Gamsa Hurdia and other leaders,
leaders,
right? And there are so many names. Like, let's remember, say their names. Like, who comes to mind when you think about 1980s and the charter that existed, Helsinki Charter?
Kostava, for example.
We need to say Kostava. What is another name we need to be reminding people of in Georgia? Like, there are so many names. My point is, I've already spoken so much, and I'm sorry for such long-winded answers, but I'm very emotional about it because I see us at the cusp of tremendous opportunity. Because today we really have educated youth, people in their teens, even teens, are informed and they can think and debate matters that I, as a teen, could not have debated. This is a treasure. So human capital. Our human capital is going to be, I'm going to use the analogy of physics, nuclear physics. It's going to be the atom. We have the talent here that is going to be the atom of 21st, 22nd century globalization and economic development that is producing good, that is caring about each other.
We can continue conversation forever. It is so interesting, obviously.
Is there something that
but we have to finish it at some point. Maybe the last... anything that you would like to add to this podcast before we call it a day?
I think the most important thing that we can do today is stop being fearful, and we must support free media. And we must remember Chorumi, which is the Georgian dance. We must remember Sulhan Saba Orbeliani's Zala Ertobashia, and we need to start living what we preach.
Thank you, Dr. Japaridze, for being my guest.
Thank
you for watching us, listening to us. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget Spotify, and I'll see you next week.